Hey, what's happening? Happy Friday. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Hopefully, you're having a good start to your weekend. Pretty exciting, huh? What's up, everybody? Hi there. Take care. Good to see you too. Good to see everybody. I don't know if anybody caught any part of the lives I was on. I was on two different lives today. One was an all Zionist panel. I'll tell you, those people can be so mean, man. And then I was on another panel with Zobita, who I think is amazing. Man, I'll tell you what, I feel like such an idiot because at one point I got to tell you, when you screw up, you got to call it, right? You got to accept it. You got to take it. And it wasn't on purpose, though. In this case, I didn't do anything purposeful. But I had a live going. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and it was just. I think it was a Saturday. It got out of control. Like it was like a Jerry Springer show with like 5 or 6 people talking over each other. And I had no idea who Zabita was at the time. I mean, I think I'd heard her once before, but only for like 30 seconds. So I had no idea just how amazing this person is at communicating. She's incredible. But anyway, so when I cleared the panel off because I couldn't stop the chaos, she was among the guests and she felt like I just threw her off for no reason. In fact, right now, I don't even know if she was one of the ones talking or not. I have no idea. I just cleared the panel and then tried to get people to come back up. And man, did I catch her raft to shit. And probably rightly so. I probably should have, but anyway, I didn't know any better. So, but I still want to own up to it because looking back now, I'm like, oh man, why did I drop that person? They're just incredible. I didn't want to do anything to upset that apple cart because anyway, we've sort of talked a little bit in the background, which has been good. You know, nothing's ever perfect, but I'm just absolutely enamored with Zubida. I don't know if you know who Zubida is, but if you don't follow Zubida, I think it's pronounced Zubida. It's Zubida Al Arabiya. It's Zoubida. If you're not following Zubida, please do. I got to tell you, I mean, she's patient. She's incredibly knowledgeable. She's incredibly articulate. I mean, I was there taking pointers. It's just, I can't say enough good things. Put it that way. And it's such a pleasure to meet somebody who is fair, but also on point. And, she, like today, I'll give you an example today. So she was talking with a female guest who was from Israel, very pro-Israel, who was making all sorts of wild assertions and claims. It was painful to listen to. And Zabita listened, and then she would bring up factual information. The person making these claims never once shared anything to back up the claims. But Zabita very patiently went and grabbed the notebook. She had the entire UN report that was the allegations, the analysis or the investigation of the claim of, the use of SA as a widespread use for a war crime on October the 7th. And so she went through the report and she already had the sections tabbed and highlighted. She's so prepared. I was just like, wow, I wish I would have done that because in fact, I was going to ask her if I can go through that with her. And yeah, she's incredible, man. I got to tell you, I feel like such a jerk for not knowing any better and then doing what I did. So, Zavita, if you ever listen to this, if you ever see this on replay, or if somebody tells you, please accept my sincere apologies for, not knowing what I didn't know. But now that I do, I would never in 10 lifetimes drop somebody like Zabita, even if things got crazy. So there it is. And hopefully I'm gonna send her a message and reiterate that. But I should probably start talking about her because her head may explode, get too big. But she deserves all the praise in the world. Yeah, maybe it is Zoubeda, Zubaydah of, what is it, Zubaydah Al Arabiya, I think is her nickname. I don't know if that's her username. You'll find her if you type in Zubaydah, Zoubeda. So there you go. Well, thank you, Dr. Syed. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, the amazing thing about the internet, I know I go on and on about this, but think of it this way. There are people here on this live right now. We would have never engaged with each other in prior time. And here we are, people across the world, Canada, the US, UK, and all across the Middle East and elsewhere. It's just we get a chance to connect. How amazing is that? And we get to see the war crimes of the Zionist regime, which a lot of times were hidden from view. Not that it's fun to watch them, but it's good to be aware of them. And there were a couple Zionists. There was a guy named Daniel, which he may be on now. I hope he comes on. It's awful. It's always difficult to navigate terrain with somebody, and if on your side you feel that there's some things that they have not been made aware of, or if they've been subjected to a campaign of sort of mass propaganda or indoctrination, as I've gone through with my country, admittedly so. This is not unique to Israel, but I do believe that Israel is especially good at phrasing things and positioning things to their supporters in such a way that they really are looked at as the victim. They think the UN is out to get them. They think that everybody hates them and everyone's ganging up on them, and they're doing all the right things that are righteous, and therefore, why is everybody doing that to us? We're the good guys, right? That's sort of the flavor of what you get. So again, it's understandable. It's just lamentable that that's where people are, and it makes it very, very difficult to get through to somebody who's sticking who's hugging that position. They're sort of standing on a certain rug, and if you even mention anything that's critical of those points, it's like you're pulling on their rug and you're completely negating their entire existence. They can't separate their viewpoints and their identity from the conversation, so they get very wound up. And one of the comments this guy Danny or Danielle made today was that he was talking to a guy named Dirty Alex, who I really enjoyed, and he got blamed for being too effeminate, which is absurd. Who gives a shit? And that for not having been to Israel, that his points weren't valid. He doesn't get it. And I'm so tired of hearing this. Listen, I was in the first Gulf War. I was on the front lines. So I smelled it. I lived it. It was not fun, but I wouldn't question somebody else's interpretation who had studied it, because you can just as easily study something without having been there. People who have been there can discuss what their experiences have been. You can read books. You can read different approaches from different books and then try to make heads or tails of it. And I always get accused of being too one-sided, but I wouldn't take the side that I take if the facts weren't the way they're presented. If it were an Arab regime being repressive towards, Jewish people who had been pushed off their land, and we've talked about historical examples of that happening, right? And that is bad. Nobody should be for that kind of stuff. I don't even know the reasons why, but I don't think it's fair. So to say that someone's picking sides, especially because they're Jewish or because they're ethnically or religiously one way or the other, that's just a cop-out. That's a huge deflection. And it's all too often. Every conversation typically ends, like I've talked to this guy Dapper before, if you know who Dapper is. And every time I spoke to him before I stopped, letting him up, because I try to be fair, it always culminates in, oh, you're just a raging anti-Semite. Everybody hates the Jews. Everybody wants to unalive the Jews, blah, 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 blah. The victim card comes out. And I have a photograph in my phone. It's perfect. And it's like a little can of WD-40. Instead of saying WD-40, it says Zionist bullshit spray. And I tell you, that is an absolutely great tool to bring out. And I also have the Zionist victim card, whining, the UN's against us. They're so unfair. Why does everybody hate us? There's so many other conflicts in the world where more people are dying. Why are they talking about this one? All that in a bag of chips. We should talk about other things. And the thing is, we're getting a lot more coverage of this one, so it's in our face. And we're seeing images that are just absolutely horrific, which is naturally going to stir emotions among a broad swath of people. So it's going to be first and foremost in the news. And again, I know I beat dead horses sometimes, but sorry about that. The Israeli government is making decisions that most other governments don't. One of the other arguments I've heard is, if Israel wanted to eliminate all people in Gaza or create a G-side, they could just do it. They have the weaponry. Yeah, they could, but guess what? As we're seeing right now, there are political repercussions for doing things that are over the top. Now, that would be, of course, ridiculously over the top. But if this is receiving condemnation, imagine if they did something, more pervasive than they're doing. So I think those comments and those arguments are just not informed by reality. Again, there's another person I've been on their lives before named Nora, Noura. She's been doing a bunch of lives lately. Seems like a nice lady. I think she's Moroccan. But man, she's just one Zionist Hasbara point after the other after the other. I mean, I got to tell you, I live on the first floor, but it does make me want to jump out a window. First floor, that is. Just so frustrating. But anyway, I don't think the day is going to come where we're able to convince people of the errors of the way um, they've been sort of propagandized to speak. They've been indoctrinated, and I don't think any amount of sensible arguments will get through. And then you have the people that aren't so nice, in addition to being indoctrinated. Uh, I kind of made a big mistake, I think. It was ill advised what I did. I don't know if anybody heard this, but I went into a live where some people on the pro Pally side, I didn't know what was going on before I got there. But what I did was, whomever it was who was angry for something that the person had said, it was a Zionist. And they were just absolutely, I mean, I've never heard anybody speak to a Zionist. I mean, I have no problem with people being critical or even not too friendly, but this was beyond over the top. But I kind of stepped into a place where I probably shouldn't have, just kept my mouth shut. And I got blamed ruthlessly for having done so, to the point where people questioned my loyalty to where my position is, which I found very, anyway, I guess it would have made sense if I was in their shoes. But I kind of came to the rescue of somebody who I thought was being treated unfairly, even though she said shitty things about me before, and she's mistreated me, muted me. But still, I try to be a decent human being, because we're all human, right? Then, a couple days later, I go into a live that she's hosting. And she had messaged me in my DM saying, thank you for, being decent or whatever. I'm not going to continue the dialogue, but I just said, hey, we're all human, right? That's what I said. Anyway, so she tried to make it sound like everybody in the entire pro Pally side, that's all we're doing is making hateful comments and talking about unaliving people and stuff, which I think is, of course, absurd. So I come into her live, and I don't expect to be treated like royalty, but I would figure because you did something nice to try to come to somebody's at least a little bit of rescue, you figure they'd at least give you some consideration, but nope. She sat there with 7 other guests and just let them shit down my throat. Didn't do a damn thing, didn't give me a chance to talk. Just a typical Zionist live. Mean-spirited, all personal attacks, claiming that because I couldn't name one of the administrative detainees that are held in Israeli jails, that the entire point about their being so is negated, and they quote what is that? They won, or they beat me, or whatever the hell they wanted everyone to say. I think that's so absurd. I mean, I wanted to ask them, okay, if you want me to name one of 7,000 administrative prisoners, why don't you name 100 of the people who died in the Holocaust? Same proportion, right? I bet you she couldn't name 4. Or maybe she could, but the point is, I don't have to hear the names of the individuals to acknowledge what happened in World War II to the Jewish people. And I don't need to know the names of the people who are prisoner inside of Israeli jails to substantiate the reality that human rights groups, multiple ones who are independent, have no reason to lie, have acknowledged the existence of administrative detainees, which I think most of us view as hostages, right? Somebody says I can name people with numbers on their arms. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you're talking about the numbers that were, I guess, tattooed into people who were Jewish, that's disgusting. And, I saw movies like Schindler's List. It grosses you out, right? The thing I can't understand is why is it that people demand that we acknowledge their humanity under those horrific circumstances, and yet they hold others to a different standard. They hold themselves to a standard of, well, we're not happy about these other people, so we have free reign to do what we want. And meanwhile, not every German person was probably completely aware of the extent of the camp system, of the specific mistreatment, maybe some of these different places where people were dying regularly. They may have had sort of tangential feelings, but they weren't fully aware. They weren't usually part of it. And the same thing with the Zios. They probably don't even know what they think they know. And it turns out that they're actually supporting something that probably they wouldn't support if they did. I would hope so. So that's why I like to say these documentaries that people seem to refuse to watch. One more point, and then I'll stop talking about other lives. So last night I had a guest on named Mark V. Dash. I don't know if you're familiar with Mark. So Mark comes on, and we're having a reasonable exchange, and Mark is standing firm on the fact that the IDF only uses logical approaches, and it doesn't make any sense that they would arbitrarily unalive the 7 aid workers in those 3 white vehicles. And so I tried to make the argument, I was like, hey, Mark, this is part of a systemic approach that pervades all aspects of the IDF. It's not just some rogue person. And there's a guy on TikTok today talking about this. He's a former IDF soldier. There's a video circulating. And in the interview, he says, listen, it's not like somebody puts out an order and says, go do X, Y, and Z. It's a permissive culture in the IDF that allows people to pretty much have a wide latitude of rules of engagement. I was in the Army. We had very specific rules of engagement. When you go to combat, the leadership, if they're moral and decent and follow the Geneva Convention, they tell you, here are the rules. These are the targets you can shoot at. This is what has to happen first, et cetera, et cetera. Those are called restraints. And the Israelis, in their leadership, seem to have very little, if not any, restraints. But they tell their people that they go through this elaborate process of checking with lawyers and using very detailed targeting systems and sending out flyers. And I just have to say one word, and I say bullshit. It does happen once in a while so that it can't be completely denied. But if you think the Israeli government and the IDF sends out warnings to everybody every time there's a bomb coming down, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And you're making arguments that don't have any basis in reality. And as I like to say, I don't want to make a claim unless I can back it up. So on my phone, I have about 130, 150 videos of just individual attacks during the onslaught of Gaza that showed journalists, probably many of whom are unfortunately dead now, perched on top of a rooftop of a building somewhere in North Gaza, just facing the camera down a major street. And periodically, boom, a missile comes out of the sky and just boom, hits a building either on the top of it or on the side of it and collapses it. And we all know what happens when that happens. They do a lot of it at night too. I have some of those videos. But at the end of the day, most of the time, they don't even have tools to try to unbury people who are caught in the rubble. They're using their bare hands to dig away the cement and the dirt. And, unfortunately, the body parts and stuff. It's really, really, really disgusting behavior. And this is why South Africa has brought this case. The biggest thing for war crimes is intent. Intent. And I don't know in other words, you have leadership, which can state specific intent, or you can have a reasonable standard intent. So in other words, if your army is continuing to do things, or your Air Force, that obviously are criminal under the best of circumstances, you just continue to permit it to happen. You may not have said go do X, Y, and Z, but because of the outcomes that your engagements are creating, you're held to the same standard either way. You can't go, oopsie, I didn't tell him to do it. And likewise with the H group, if the leadership of the H group said, hey, go out there and get some hostages, but while you're out there, wreak havoc in any way, shape you want to, that's also a war crime. You have to be consistent and fair. Now, I don't know. And this other person that was on today, this poor, uninformed Israeli lady who kept talking and talking, she's making the claim that every allegation from 10/7 is absolutely 100% true. And there's just no doubt about it. She says it's fact. But Zubaydah made a great point. She said, listen, like I like to say, you can't deny it because nobody has certainty. But even the UN report that people look to now and say, look, it's definitely proof. It's not proof. They said in most of the cases they analyzed, while it appears to be likely that this may have occurred, there's no definitive evidence to corroborate it having happened. It's circumstantial is what they say. Somebody named Shira says, Carl, if your daughter was kidnapped, what would you do? I think we all can sympathize with anybody who's been put in harm's way, whether it's intentional or not. Especially, if you're a civilian on 10/7, you can make the argument that they should have never settled in the territory near there. You can make that argument. And a lot of the kibbutzim, if you don't know this, whoever's making comments, the adult males were armed, and in a lot of cases tried to fight off the militants. Now, if you go into a place to try to get hostages and somebody shoots at you, that person is no longer an innocent civilian. If they get unalive, they were literally using the same weaponry, the same exact rules of engagement that you are. So that's not considered an off-limits target. Even, if you're going to make the claim about human shields, they're not even armed. How can you make the same claim about a civilian who is armed and fights back? So, but yes, we should have full sympathy for anyone who got caught up in this for no fault of their own. I agree. And we should want all of the hostages that remain to be healthy and to be released. And it should be a part of a total ceasefire, not a 6-week pause or a 3-week pause or a humanitarian pause, for a complete end of hostilities. And somebody would say, well, the job's not finished. The job's not finished. Bad news for you. The job is never going to be finished. Give me 1 sec. Ruby, come here. Come here. Come here. Why don't you go down the hill, okay? There you go. Go ahead. There you go. Freedom. Just let the dog off the leash at the park. So you have to have the same standards either way. So if you demand that people show sympathy for the hostages, you have to have sympathy for the innocent victims of the Israeli tanks and the Israeli military, the Israeli gunfire, the Israeli snipers. This is not the fog of war as people claim. And it can happen. There are circumstances where people are unintentionally harmed. It can happen, but it's rare. And I think the court case that's going to be coming up, and there has been no formal decision yet at the ICJ. Another argument we hear is that because they didn't call for a definitive ceasefire, that absolves Israel of any guilt. No, it doesn't. They found during their initial investigations that there was indeed sufficient evidence to go to a second stage to do a more formal investigation, which will take, I don't know, 24 months, maybe 30 months to complete, because they have to be thorough. If you're going to accuse somebody of committing war crimes, that's a pretty serious allegation. You have to make sure you have all the evidence and all your ducks lined up, just like a court case. So we'll see what happens with that. What I want to do on this live, if possible, I did let a few people know. Damn, is my my signal's okay? I thought it was down to, I thought my battery was down to like 8%. It's 80%. That's good. I'm gonna use for this live just for now. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna be on again tonight, by the way, probably closer to 8 p.m. But I want to use this live. If you're pro-Zionist, I know there was someone named, I think it's Cher. If someone like Cher has enough followers, you want to come up and make your point. As I always like to say, you will be treated with dignity and respect. You will be given ample time to make your point. I like to try to lead by example when it comes to how these lives go. For those of you who are sort of new here, excuse me, got to sneeze. Excuse me. Wow, must be dog dander or something. You're welcome to come up. And unlike a lot of lives where people gang up on you in the comments or gang up you, I don't allow for that. So if anybody's doing that, I block them or mute them or whatever. And while we're up on the panel, I'll give you equal time. So maybe you'll have a couple minutes. We'll pause for a second and have a dialogue. Unlike that lady Nora, when I came up on her live, she would ask me a question. I would start to answer it. She would stop me and she would go on an 8 or 10 minute monologue. I got maybe 15 seconds. That's not a discussion. Oh, good. Dagonos is here. Dagonos, for the love of sweet God, will you please come up and talk? I've seen you in my comments so many times. Listen, the audience would probably very much like to hear your point of view. These lives are much more entertaining and interesting when you have diverging points of view. And we don't have to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. We can talk about American politics, the election, Trump versus Biden, other conflicts, whatever interests you, we can have a lively debate about. And if we differ, great. Let's focus on the arguments, but not the person making the argument. That's how I like to do it. So yeah, Dagonos, come on up. I will be more than decent. I'm decent to everybody. If somebody starts talking like personal attacks or starts making heinous comments, that's different. There was a guy, unfortunately, I had to block. I don't know if you know this guy. His name is Troll of Israel. And again, I'm not going to disparage the guy, but I think his behavior tells you all you need to know in terms of, if anybody comes up and is decent, they'll always have a place to talk here. Okay, so you pro-Zios, please come on up. Somebody says, Bagelbomb 229, can we talk about how awesome Chip is? I love you, dude. Oh, I thought you were making fun of me. Well, thank you if that's a nice comment. If you're not, it's okay. You can criticize me too. It's okay. I get a lot of criticism. And I think it's interesting in terms of TikTok goes. If you take a stance on any issue, but especially if you take, I've been called a traitor in terms of my criticism of the United States policy. I've been told to leave the country, that I'm a disgrace to the military because I don't see the American policies as moral or even serving the majority of the public that well. It serves a very small sliver of the oligarchy and the national security state. And why do we want to be on a constant war footing? I understand the projection and hegemony argument, like the Project for the New American Century folks, we call the neocons. But look what they're doing right now. They've instigated a conflict in Ukraine that's cost hundreds of thousands of lives, spent untold billions of dollars, probably 140 billion and counting. We have a $34 trillion debt. We can't afford to be doing dumb shit like this. But again, a lot of people get a very limited backstory. Just like we talked about the Israeli information system, the U.S. information system is the same way. I'm trying to keep the wind down for you all. It's the same way. It's the same exact way. We get a very small picture, and then we blame somebody for doing something absent the backstory. And then, of course, nobody can make proper sense of it. And why should they? Because they don't have the context. Context is when it comes down to geopolitics, context is everything. It's all nuance. It's not black or white. And same thing with countries. No country is, quote, good or bad. Somebody from Alive recently, that guy Morocco of Israel, I think is his name, was trying to get me to declare that everything that happened on 10/7 by the H group was just abject evil. No other conversation to be had. I've had a lot of people do that. They also say if you don't affirm the right of Israel to exist and you don't confirm the Holocaust, there's no discussion. I have no reason to deny any of those things, but I'm just saying nobody can tell you what the prerequisites are to talk. I don't tell anybody else you have to do A, B, or C. That's bullshit. But with that, the guy said that everything on 10/7 was just evil. And if you don't, and the guy called the fucking FBI on me because I wouldn't say it was evil. That's pretty silly. But anyway, so the point I tried to make in distinguishing that for him is there's a lot of ambiguity with that day. So if you were blockaded and you broke out and you fought soldiers that were armed, that's not evil. In which case you have to use the same standard. If every time Israel does an attack on civilians or soldiers, that's evil, right? You can't have a different standard. Just because you have a formal nation state and you have a formal military, you should be held to a higher standard, in my opinion, than some rogue military. And then secondly, we have a lot of ambiguity about what happened that day. Yes, we do know that some of the H group engaged with some of the civilians. That's horrible and beyond dispute. But a lot of the other allegations, like we were talking about with Nevada's live earlier, we don't have clarity on that. How can you demand somebody who's just trying to literally objectively analyze this, having done research about people like Owen Benjamin, who was given access to this 47-minute compilation that the IDF shared with select journalists? And in that presentation, you would think that the Israelis would make the case for journalists to provide evidence of the more egregious atrocities like the raping, assaults, mutilations of young people, whatever the head thing was, all that stuff, right? You would think that they want to show the world how barbaric these people were. They didn't show any of that, according to these journalists. And so it leaves room for ambiguity. And to declare somebody evil because they don't acknowledge ambiguity as being fact, that's not fair. Anyway, so yeah, and by the way, just to let you know, I get a lot of hate, but I don't wish ill on anybody who disagrees. Because in the end, they think what they think for whatever reason they think it, and we can try to dissect each other's points and try to. The thing I've found though is, and this is a really important distinction for everybody to know about. So, and this is just my experience. It could be different for other people, but I try to remain open to other information, which I think is fair. And for example, if somebody does say they have evidence of what happened on 10/7, based on the things we've just been discussing, I've given people my email address, my Telegram, and other, if they want to send me to other Telegram groups or sites or whatever. I've looked at every last piece of whatever somebody says to me, whether it's a video, a picture, somebody's an article in a newspaper, whatever it may be. I feel like I owe them that courtesy if I'm going to make these. If I put it out there that I can't be certain about it, I should be open to looking for things that make certainty. Right? That's fair. I've read every single one of these, every single one. And I give people one thing to look at, one 5-minute clip they never look at, ever. And that's pretty telling, in my opinion. God, the dog ran off again. Where'd she go? There she is. Okay, we're good. I always do this. I always look at my phone too much, so I'm going to keep an eye on the dog. So, in the end, and again, it all comes back to this. If you have behavior, like the U.S., for example, if you don't hide it from your citizens, then of course they're going to be outraged because no one wants to see their country committing war crimes. And for the Israelis to make the declaration to the public, and they fired a couple of commanders, they said, in terms of the IDF chain of command about what happened with the aid workers, the 7 aid workers who unfortunately died. And I think that's sufficient to kind of fool the public that, that we told the people that did. It's window dressing. It's just paying lip service to a war crime that everybody can see very clearly that it was done purposely. And I don't think that, maybe it came down from the top. I doubt it was very formal, like go get them. But it was probably like the rules of engagement are not very clear. And they say, hey, listen, if you see somebody moving, we can make the argument that they may be embedding, H group members. So therefore just engage. Because everything is considered a T word when it comes to Israel. Everybody is a potential T word from birth until old age. That's their mindset. And they use that as their excuse, which is pretty gross. So if you're somebody who disagrees with that point of view, if you see it differently, if you would like to make an argument to rebut the things that are being said, I welcome you to come up and share your point of view and educate me. A lot of people in the comments will say things like, you don't know the history, you've never been to Israel, how could you possibly know? Why do you care? You're just some dumb American. How dare you get involved in our affair? All that stuff. So come up and educate me, please. Set me straight, because I don't want to be wrong. And, Do a good job to advocate for your country and your cause. And if you make a compelling argument that overcomes the discussion, then people will accept it for what it is. Personal attacks don't really do a whole lot for people. People look at that as like third grade life, right? So I'm going to invite a few people, by the way, just while we're at it. If you don't mind doing the same, this is going to be going until about 7 p.m. or maybe 7:15 if we get some guests. And then I'm going to take a break for dinner, and then I'm going to get back on again for those of you who want to keep an eye out. So I'll probably be back on between 8 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But I was down here, and just being on those lives made me kind of sick to my stomach, as they always do. So, okay, let's do this. Let's take a second here. I'm going to pause for about a minute. And I'm going to invite some people. The way that you can do that, if you'd like to invite people, I hope you will, is to hold the screen down for about a half second and a list of your mutual friends pop up, and then just click invite. I'm going to do the same thing. And if you don't like to do that, but you want to tap the likes, you just hit the screen like I'm going to do right now, just adding some likes. So let's get the likes up to some bigger number. Let's get it up to 20K at least real quick, and let's do some invites. I'm going to do the same, okay? Give me one sec. Oh, by the way, Nancy Naveen is here. I really like Nancy Naveen, by the way, if she's here. Oh, no, this is to send to friends. If you haven't followed Nancy Naveen, she's made some trips to, I think it's to the West Bank, and I think her heritage is Palestinian. Although I don't know if she's Muslim or Christian, but I really like her work. She's got some amazing videos. She went to this one restaurant that had this beautiful tree growing in the middle. It was just incredible. It looked amazing. God, the weather there seems perfect, by the way, too. So I'm going to invite in a few Zionists that I'm friends with, and hopefully they'll come on. There are a few Zionists I've had to block because they're just so incredibly hateful. I just can't take it anymore. And all they do is make personal attacks. So there's no point. Who was this one girl today? What was her name today? Oh, God, I can't remember her name. She really doesn't like me. I told her I loved her. And I do. I love everybody. Even if we disagree. Thank you for sharing the live, Brenda. Because the only, like Brenda is I think Brenda does a great job of emphasizing this reality that ultimately, people have said this, the only thing that matters in the end is love. It's the only thing that are going to help us overcome our problems is to recognize our shared humanity and try to love each other and cooperate. That's it. That's the end of it. Okay, so again, I'm taking guests who are pro-Israel only right now, courtside. But what I do is, if we don't get any guests for a while here, I'll eventually bring up some other guests. But I really, really, really want to get up somebody who's pro-Israel. It makes the conversation that much better, I think. Yeah, like I said, there's only one way I'm going to stop speaking out about this issue, and that is if I'm no longer alive. And I've been talking about it for a long time. I've gone to other things. I've watched so much content about this issue. I just really enjoy studying it. And, to be accused of doing it for money or for some other reason is just such a slap in the face. Hello. Hey, Stella. Hey, beautiful little puppy. Hey, little girl. Hey, how you doing? You're all excited, aren't you? Talk about loving life, right? A little puppy. Okay, Stella, come on. Yeah, it's so nice to be out with dogs, man. I like to say dogs are everything that's right with the world. I really believe that. Okay, so if everybody's had a chance to invite some folks, I appreciate you doing that. Other thing I want to let you know, if anybody's new here, can you please type the number 1 in the chat so I can let you know a little bit about the backstory? Because I don't want to waste people's time if you've already seen me before. Yeah, I think Brenda was just saying yes to the idea that we have to love each other. Yeah, maybe it's the fact that dogs are everything. Dogs are amazing, man. I wanted to get one for so long. Hey, Hassan, welcome. Yeah, Quartzite number 2. You've seen me forever. By the way, when I first saw Quartzite's name, I thought it was Quart Size. And for the longest time, I said it in my head, Quart Size. And I finally read it. It says Quartzite. So I don't know why I got that wrong. I should just read. Chip the Dip. Well, you can think that. That's okay. I've been called way worse, by the way. Indigo Fosho. So you can probably create something a little more stringent than that. Yeah, Ruby she's a coonhound. Ruby, come here, girl. The only thing I don't like is she drinks out of these little brackish puddles on this field that are disgusting. I'm afraid she's going to get sick, but she hasn't gotten sick so far. So yeah, I want to know if anybody's outside the United States or even if you're inside the U.S., if you don't mind sharing where you're from. This is a good exercise to see all the people we connect with. And they'll say, hey, so only one person said that they're new here. So I'm just an ex-Army officer. I learned about this in 1989, so I've been talking about it a lot. I came on TikTok 2 days after the attacks on 10/7. So it's been a real joy to talk about it. It's been a real bummer to watch how it's developed and all the horrible things. Stockholm, Sweden, the UK. Hey, Maz, how you doing? Maz is very kind to help moderate. Thank you, Maz. Hawaii. I'm curious to hear what somebody thought about those fires in Maui. I've actually been there. I've been in that exact area where that happened when I traveled there in the early mid 90s. Yeah, somebody says humans don't deserve dogs. I couldn't agree more. We don't deserve every animal that's out there. Animals are just, they're amazing. Tyson's Corner, Virginia. A lot of good shopping down there if you like to shop in the high end. I'm sure a lot of the rich, people in DC go down there to shop. Manchester, UK. Are you Manchester U or Man City? Ruby, hey! Hold on one sec. She's ducked down in the woods. I can't stand it when she just ventures off like that. I got to keep a close eye on her. Yeah, all animals, in my opinion, and even nature in general, is just absolutely incredible. This is where I really struggle. We were talking last night. Someone came on the panel who very kindly suggested that people like myself consider reading the Quran. And a lot of people in this journey of learning more about this issue, I think, have done that. And I don't know what it is about I guess I'm very skeptical. And I don't know if anybody else feels this, but I just don't want to be disingenuous and tell people that I believe something that I really don't. And this idea of submission, I don't know if I don't know if the resistance is some kind of arrogance. I don't really feel that way about it. It's not that I'm looking down on it or think it's bad. I just have a hard time connecting with it. I don't know if anybody ever feels that way. I know growing up, I grew up in a Christian household and went to church and stuff. And I just never really felt that connection that I saw other people seeming to have. And I really envy people who have faith because they seem to have this sort of center to them that is really impressive. I just don't feel it. I don't know how to get there. So it's not out of disrespect, that's for sure. Yeah, Quartzsite. I'm going to hold off on the guest for just a little bit more, maybe about 6:30 p.m. If we don't get anybody on here, we'll do that. So listen, if there's somebody on, this is one thing I would like to hear about. I like to hear about how people came to believe things, not so much what they believe, because that's more interesting. And so I did have somebody actually who'd been following my lives actually contacted me. We spent like an hour and a half on the phone one time. He was from Florida, Delray Beach, Florida. Business owner, nice man, really good guy. And he talked about the impact of his journey in learning about Allah and Islam and how the practice changed his life. And other people have said the same thing. In fact, a lot of the new people that I've heard that have read the Quran have been so incredibly impressed by it that it was nothing what they thought it was. And of course, all we hear in the West is it's evil. It's all these people who want to be violent and they want to crusade and convert everybody, which of course is total horseshit. But I just don't know. Maybe there's something I'm just missing. The other thing I wonder about, I don't know if you guys ever think, or you guys and gals think about this, but, we have the science shows where they talk about the Earth and, of course, the moon, and then, of course, the constellations and the different stars and all the distances and how huge this whole thing is, not only our solar system, but the Milky Way galaxy and then the other galaxy. It's almost incomprehensibly large and complex. And I can't get my head around that. Like, how did that come to be? Was there a start? Is it just a continuum? Does anybody else have? I've asked so many people if they have an answer to this, and I've never gotten a straight answer. I've gotten that there's a creator, but I'm wondering if why is the Earth so special, and why are humans? It's just, and what about humans way back in the day, or what about before humans existed? If the scientists are right, why did this ball come to be, and how? These are just things I can't get my head around. So if anybody has those answers, I would love to have you up and share that with me because I have no clue. So anyway, I've thought about going down to some of the local mosques and just saying hi and just talking to somebody down there. Did you ever hear the story that Joe Rogan told? There was a guy who was, I guess, very hateful or angry after 9/11. He was going to go in and, strap on and, do the thing inside of a mosque because he was so angry. Or maybe just use the weapons. I'm not sure how. But anyway, he was going to do something really bad. And when he went there to kind of scope it out, some very kind woman met him and sort of was so nice to him that he was like, I can't hurt this person. So, and she invited him over for dinner with their family. He had such a nice time that he converted, and now he's a Muslim. That's a pretty amazing story. So those are the stories I like to hear. People whose lives have been turned around, go from hate to love, and those kind of things. I think that's a really nice thing. So I don't want to beg a pro-Israel person to come up, but I really would wish you would if you're somebody who's pro-Israel. Usually we have one or two people in the comments who are. It's a little windy down here. But that's the question I have. If anybody, I mean, I've heard a lot of Christians make the argument they're called New Earth creationists. Where they think that the Earth is about 6,600 years old, goes back to biblical times. My understanding is that civilization started in some form back in like 14 or 15,000 years ago. So I don't know how you can square that. And of course, they deny the existence of dinosaurs, and they believe in Noah's Ark. And so I just want to put this out there as something that was difficult for me to understand. How could you have a boat with two of everything, whether it be birds, land animals, every little species? It's so many species. And what if one died during the voyage from some sickness or some kind of violent, and then you wouldn't have it? So it's just the whole thing just seems very, I don't know, just hard to get your head around. Yeah, I'm going to go about 10 more minutes courtside, and then I'll happily bring you up. Still hoping for Azio to come on. I was talking yesterday, I was walking the dog while I was talking about anti-Zionist, and some lady was like 15 feet away, and man, you should have seen the look. You could have skinned the hide off a billy goat. She was so angry at me for saying something anti-Zionist. So it's always funny to see people get angry about these issues. But I live in a community that has a large Jewish population, and in fact, if you've never been into a Jewish community, and this is the one that I'm a part of, they're very tight knit. In fact, so much so, and I didn't know this, but if they have a dispute or an issue that normally would go to like the normal municipal courts, like let's say somebody had a domestic violence issue, and so somebody had a bad night, they were drinking, and something happened. Normally, the police would be called, and they would either take somebody out of the home or whatever. They don't do that initially; not supposed to. They have a process internally with like the rabbi and the community where they go through these steps to internally deal with the situation, and then only then, if it's like completely out of control, does it reach the outside. And I have a friend, unfortunately, who happens to have 6 kids, who I met through the peace movement, who's unfortunately his issue went to the outside. He got jammed up. That's the term for like getting arrested and all that other shit. I don't want to get into details, but I kind of admire people that stick together and have each other's backs, and maybe that's part of what makes people angry, because people don't like they don't kind of open their group up. They kind of stay as an enclave, and maybe other people see that as, I don't know, unaccepting or exclusionary or whatever. It wasn't. Somebody says here, Maddie 596 says it, meaning the Earth, I guess, or the universe, wasn't created by a man in a white robe in a cloud. Well, first of all, as George Carlin said, that God has to be a man. Stay with me, ladies, because no woman could ever fuck things up this bad. I think that's a really good statement. I love George Carlin. Too bad he's gone. He was awesome. And I believe that. I think men just there must be something about testosterone that just causes total havoc. It's nice to have men when you need to move a big tree out of the way if you're driving, or if there's a war that has to be fought. It's good to have men, I guess, because that's not fun. Or having to go out and weld or do some like oil rig or some shit, which is mostly male jobs. Not that women can't do them, but most choose not to. It's interesting. I think, who was it that said, oh, Bill Burr. If you don't know comedian Bill Burr, he's funny as hell. And he was doing a bit, and the bit was that women say that being a mother, it's the toughest job in the world. And Bill Burr's like, really? You think the guys on the oil rig, that Horizon thing that blew up, and they had to jump off into this fiery water, they had to find a place to come up? What's that versus, oh my God, the kid messed up, we fell over the building blocks? I thought that was pretty good. Oh, good, the dogs are getting snacks. It's always nice. Somebody says, I saw your video about being reported. I'm so sorry. That isn't okay. I think it's like one of these things where it's no big deal. Like, I think this guy does this a lot. He's sort of a hothead, and anybody who kind of sets him off, he reports them to the authorities. I guess for some kind of hate crime or something. But I have recordings of all this. That's the great news. I keep every single video recorded. So if anybody ever disputes if there's a he said, she said, or he said, I got the receipts. So, but people get angry, especially people who are threatened by the idea that Jewish people and their identity being tied with Israel, any criticism is a threat to their very existence. And therefore, they're really angry when people don't see that or see it differently. And therefore, they get very angry because they think people are trying to get them. Which, of course, look at the dog with the play. Look at the dog go. Look at her. She's so much fun to watch. She runs a lot, too. I used to run a lot, but I'm older now. Somebody says Chip Burns versus Joey Contino. Who would win? Well, I'd like to give you an answer, but I would first have to know who Joey Contino is. Can you explain People You'll See in Hell? What a name. I didn't even read the name before I said it. Okay, interesting. I don't know who Joey Contino is or what he's all about, but I can look him up. Does anybody know who Joey Contino is? Indigo Foster, that's very nice. He said, I wouldn't trust Chip with a dog. Well, I wouldn't trust Zionists with anything because they're the ones that are actually unaliving dogs in Gaza. They're just shooting them with tanks because they can. These sick individuals. So I would say that Ruby probably gets royal treatment. She gets the best food I can possibly buy. She goes out 3 times a day. She's very well loved. She gets bathed once a week. I have a nice caretaker if I have to travel. I think being a good caretaker for an animal is an amazing thing to do if you don't have kids, right? It's sort of like you have to learn to be. And dogs are probably even tougher than kids because kids have some level of autonomy. Dogs, you have to really care for them all the time. So, yeah, Quartzsite, time and again. I tell you what, Quartzsite seems really anxious to come up, so why don't you ask and I'll bring you up. Sorry for making you wait. My normal form is I like to just, talk about a bunch of different nonsense. Yeah, I think I give Ruby a bunch of love. I think she has a great time. She loves going to this park with her deer. That's her favorite thing. And then second favorite thing is to come to the park here with other dogs. But what I really want to do is get a cabin out in the woods for a weekend and go hiking and just let her go. Dag, hold on. Let me just say this. Dagonos, I love when I get these put downs. Dagono says you take a dog when no person can stand. He said stand you, but can't stand you. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe the romantic relationship. I'm heterosexual, not that it matters, but I almost got married twice, but just never quite got there. But no, I also live with 2 cats. I don't even like to say have because I don't believe we ever own animals. But I care for Ruby and I care for 2 other cats. I lived with 6 cats at one point, and I was doing fostering at one point, and I had 13 cats, including 5 kittens, when I was at the peak of my animal craziness. But thank you, Dagnos. Thank you for pointing out that I'm not fit for a relationship, human relationship, that is. Quartzsite, how you doing? Make sure I got you up here. How are you?
Hi Chip, salam alaikum.
Yeah, alaikum assalam, I think you're supposed to say. I'm not sure.
Good. Yeah. Salam alaikum means may God's blessing be upon you. That's the greeting. And all you gotta say is
Well,
wa
that's very kind
alaikum
of you.
wa salam.
Likewise.
Yeah. And when you say wa alaikum, then you
Wa
say
alaikum
may,
assalam.
yeah, wa alaikum wa salam, which is with a W. Wa alaikum with W, wa salam with a W. That means may God's blessing be upon you too.
Thank you.
Isn't
That
that
makes a lot of sense, and that's a very kind exchange.
Isn't
I
that
like that.
such a wonderful greetings? Beautiful, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I often say to people, just in my normal language, peace be upon you, just as a normal,
Yeah, it's the
peace
same
and
thing.
kindness,
Salam.
and yeah, that's just a way of being warm with people and wishing them well.
Yeah, and then if you're not gonna answer to the salam alaikum or to the wa alaikum assalam, that means you're being rude to the person.
Okay, thanks. Good to know.
Yes, sir.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's a polite way. There's never hi, so it's a very respectful way. Anyway, Chip, I'm seeing what's going on with the white hair, bro. You used to look different. What did you do?
What,
You
my
made some
hair's gotten
major.
grayer since you saw me?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on
It
your
must be
lives. You
watching.
look different.
Well, maybe all the stress from watching all this carnage in Gaza. It does wear on you to watch people being, destroyed the way they are. So I don't know. The other
Don't.
thing is, you probably heard this, but I have a really, I well, yeah, I try to manage that, but I have a really bad illness with the Gulf War that's kicking my ass. So I try not to talk about it much, but it hasn't been fun.
True, true, true. That's holding you up. Yeah, you have to take care of your health. So your health is first. It's very important. And we like all your shows and
Good
keep up
point.
the good work. We love what you're doing. Why don't we talk outside the box a little bit? Do you want to talk outside the box?
Yeah, sure. But I tell you what, here's a question for you. If members of the audience, much like myself, are, I guess, reticent or reluctant to give of themselves to a faith, have you ever talked to somebody in that regard and kind of coached them along the way to help them kind of get over that hump?
Yes, I do, sir, because I'm into crystal business. So my job is to be, humanity first. So there's so many people they come to my store, and everybody wants to ask after COVID, especially these young kids, the girls. Everybody's into something, man. It's really stressful. So people want to heal up, and they're all looking into something for an anxiety, stress relief, depression, all kind of things. So everybody has their own way of doing
Sure.
things, and we all believe in different kind of faith and religion. So I just wanted to be out of the box, and I wanted to say that, hey, Chip, just in a random case, like I know you don't believe and whatever, but we all are getting stressed for the past 6 months. What's going on? We can't just take it.
Sure.
So what I want to request is that just in a in a random way, just pick up any surah from the Quran and play it, and then listen to it with an open heart, not with a closed mind, closed heart. Just listen to it with the Arabic and with the English translation. So you can pick up any video; it don't matter. So when you listen to it every day, and then nobody is there to convince you, nobody is there to preach you to come to Islam. No, man. It's your choice, it's your belief. Just listen to the words, and no wonder that so many millions are converting to Islam. So why not even a single person is converting into Judaism at the last 6 months? So give me some logic to it. I myself
Yeah, that
am
makes
Muslim,
sense.
Alhamdulillah, but I'm not. I'm not. Nobody is 100%, man. Even you can take anybody. We do things wrong. So if you want to be 100%, you have to be locked up. Like in Ramadan, when people are really fasting, right? They stay 1 month in the mosque. They do not watch TV. It's not allowed. You cannot mingle with
Hmm.
people. It's you, your God. You're in the mosque. You're praying there the whole month. You're fasting. So you don't want to hear. You don't want to listen. All nonsense. Whatever's happening in the world. So what we do is when we wake up in the morning, the very first thing is that we get distracted by our phone, we get distracted by
Mm-hmm.
our television, we get distracted by our street, we get distracted by phone calls. Everything is so aggressive. So the moment you open your eyes and ear, in the very beginning, is that it's just negative, 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 until we fall asleep. So the whole day is negative. I don't watch TV, man. After 9/11, no, brother, I do not watch television. Yes, I'm on the social media. I find my sources. I look up into things. But the good thing is that you have to be positive. For positivity, you need to wake up in the morning and do meditation. There's no way out, man. You have to meditate. It don't matter what God you believe in. Just wake up in the morning from 4 to 5, when it's not noisy. There's no light. There's no music. It's just peace and calm. It's you and your God. You sit on the mat, pray whatever God you pray into. In Christianity, you take your rosary, and then in Muslim we take tasbih. You have to pray, call the name, and when you wake up in the morning, trust me, your heart has to be light. How it's going to be light is that when you are positive. So when you get up and you're positive, your heart is light. So when you go to the street light, when you meet people, you're always, the whole day you have to be positive, positive, positive. So we are distracted
Yeah.
by all these phone calls, television, the people, you're in the traffic, everything is just negative, negative, negative. Come on, man, we're human beings. That's why the world wants
Yeah.
peace. We have to be in peace, man. That's why people want to go vacation. Vacation is to vacate your mind, to take everything off your mind. That's the thing. So what
Right.
is now spoiling us right now is that we are addicted, because in America we are lonely. You are a lonely, I'm a lonely person. We don't have people to talk to. That's why we have to
Yeah.
choose a way, and we have no choice. The first thing you wake up in the morning is just open your phone, and the very first time is you getting a negative thing, videos. You can't just stand it, man. So there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
We have to be positive. We have to be faithful. We have to be open-minded, open heart. I thank you for doing all your best for the Palestinian people. You're a good person. I hope for the best for the Palestinian brothers and sisters, man. Uh, I
Thank
just
you.
want to
Thank
say
you for
last
sharing that.
thing, sir. Thank you. I just want to say that people are lovely, right? But you guys are not seeing, right? The app is coming. There's lots of app. Okay, I'll give you an app. There's an app called OMV TV. Okay, now there's a age restriction in America. There's an age restriction. If you're 18 and above, you can go on the app, right? But there are kids who are 7 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old on that app. So who's giving them the chance? Why are they allowing a person who is a baby opening OMV TV, and it's open to everybody? If you're putting an age restriction and the video, like you want to cut off all those kids, no way. The kids are all the time there, and they have created this in a way, in an environment. Then bloody thing is that you look into these kids, the generation here in America, every kid is addicted into drugs, man. So why it's not being watched? If you're being very careful, you're being nice to society and community, we need to take care of this youth. We need to take care of the kids. Why are they getting addicted? Who is behind all this? So why are the small kids? First thing, the age limit is not there. Secondly, why are these apps all allowing people, like on TikTok? You cannot even take the word. You cannot even pick a age group. But there is an app there which is not allowed. But people are smoking stuff, man. It's so disgusting that we are not looking outside the box. That what is the youth gonna be next? The generation now is fine, but what will happen to the kids of these kids, man? The
Yeah.
generation in the future is really alarming, brother. We need to wake up. America needs to wake up. We need to stop all what nonsense is happening around us and around the world, man. So we have to be
Yeah.
careful. I was just wondering, why would FBI come after you when you are being a nice, cool person? You didn't do anything wrong. But the wrong things what's happening is all this people, the small kids. You look at the OMV TV, go there one time and see that all these kids are into addiction, man. Why they putting every kid into drugs, and they're coming up with either with a bottle in the hand, either the smoking, and they're showing on the video everything's happening. You're seeing that. Why the hell is happening this? Who's gonna check this one? There need to be check and balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good point. Yeah, I think especially phone addiction, I think, I probably could be considered a phone addict. I'm on it way too much. So your point is very well taken. I think you're right. Having a morning routine that's absent from like a lot of distractions and negativity is a really important part of life. So yeah, and thank you for reminding me of that. And also, I think especially with companies like Facebook, which owns Instagram, they were hauled in front of the U.S. Congress for this exact issue, claiming that they're addicting kids, and TikTok too, that they're addicting kids to the stimulus, getting dopamine from swiping and turning, and just it's a never-ending. Their attention span is very. I notice it among myself too. When I'm trying to watch a longer video, I find myself getting a little agitated, which is not good. So I think we all can get caught up in that spiral. But yeah, I like what you shared. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Please listen to the Quran. Listen to it with an open mind, open heart. Just open for Quran with the English translation, brother. I hope your destiny is coming.
Do you recommend, like for example, on YouTube, are there videos that you think are more helpful
Yes.
than others in terms of for people who are new?
No, you can go to any video. See, Quran everywhere is the same thing. It depends who's reciting it, but the Quran is not just a translation. Like I really, I really admire all the new who are converting, and then they are going into the summary. They're going into each line. They're going into the more detail of the meaning of the sentences, not just a translation. It is a deep meaning. It's God's wording. So who are we, man? We are nobody. We have to really go. There are people who are doing the research for each sentences, like the way our sisters are doing. I was amazed. Even we as a Muslim, we are just taking it for granted, man. All we're doing is that either we can read it or we can translate it, and most of us, we don't even know the meaning, because Arabic is Arabic language. It's not easy. But if we do know the meaning, at least we need to go into the details of each and everything. Why are we forbidden porks? Because pork, there is scientifically 20 kind of diseases. If you eat a raw pork, you can have worms in your brain. So it's God's book. There's a lot of things that we have to match with scientific way. What about the seven skies? There's a lot, man. I'm not a religious person. I'm just telling you, we have to match it. You choose it from your faith. What feels good to you, brother?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm totally brand new, so I'm a total, neophyte rookie.
No,
So it might take
you're
me some
good.
time to kind of.
All Please listen to the Quran. Start listening to it by open heart, open mind. Just listen to any of it. Pick up from a YouTube a random one, just and listen to it. There's different surahs. It has a deep meaning, and it's for different purposes. So it can be for black magic. It can be for for the poor people. It can be for children. It can be for charity. There's a lots of things, has lots of meaning to it, sir. Take it slow, but inshallah everything will be fine with you. And you keeping a hobby of the animals, which is good, because we all have to pick up a hobby. If we pick up a hobby, gardening or maybe traveling or photography or animals, that can keep us happy too. Because in America, most of us are lonely in this world. In America, that's the only problem that's killing us. That's eating us from inside. So
Yeah.
we've been together for 6 months, and we are like a family. We're learning from each other, and we are accepting the civilization, because the east and west, that's the clash. We have a clash of civilization. We do not understand the religion and their custom, their culture, what is in the east, and in the west it's a different scenario. So you have to travel with an open mind. You have to travel to different countries. Then you can criticize. If you don't know the religion, you don't know the music, you do not know the language, you do not know the dress code, you do not know their food, how are you going to even criticize about someone? So now the Palestinian, all the cultures being adopted by Zios who are coming in, but they do not have their own culture. They don't have it. So they're learning. This is why they're not respecting anything. They don't respect the culture. They don't respect humanity. They don't respect the kids. They don't respect the animals. They don't respect the trees. Why would God's chosen person unalive the trees? What did the tree tell you, man? The tree is the
Yeah.
80% source of income for this poor Palestinian who are making olive oil from the tree. Why are you
Yeah.
unaliving a tree? Why are you unaliving and destroying the history of the schools, the universities, everything? Even online is the same thing. They're taking everything off. They want to bring a project propaganda in front of your eyes every day when you wake up. I don't watch this Western media. I don't even know what shit is happening on CNN, Fox. This is 9/11. I think it's been like 20 or 25 years. I don't watch TV, man. I don't.
Is it okay if I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Where did you grow up? Do you still live there now? And do you know anything about India? Because I've heard a lot of people from India supporting Israel, and I've seen a lot of people who are Hindi being very cruel to Muslims in India. Are you aware of that, or is that where are you from?
Yeah, I am from part of Kashmir. So Kashmir is a
That's
small
between
part.
Pakistan and India, right?
Yeah, it's a small part of Kashmir is in Pakistan. The larger portion is in India. So when in 1947, when British divided, they did not finish their job in Kashmir. So in Kashmir, what happened is that on the Kashmir India side, it's beautiful. On the Pakistan side, it's a small component, 4,000 square kilometer. But I'm on the very far left side, which is Gilgit Baltistan. It's a colony under Pakistan. So Gilgit
Okay.
Baltistan, today we are oppressed region, and we are not part of the constitution because we do not vote, we do not have a senator, we do not have a prime minister, we don't have a
Mm.
president. So we are directly handled from Islamabad as a colony. So
Mm.
even in United Nations, Pakistan took this case that hey, India and Pakistan have this trouble because Pakistan calls it disputed territory, and India claims that the whole region is part of mine, and Pakistan said the whole region is mine. So they both what they do is that they fight amongst themselves, but for what reason? Because they want to get budget. So India wants to get budget for the army, Pakistan wants to get budget for the army. So on both sides, we are suffering as a common citizen. We don't have a medical college. We do not have hospitals. We do not have university. We don't have
Mm.
agriculture. We don't have jobs. So everything in India side, they have to go to the city, and in Pakistan side, we have to go to the main cities, and that's super expensive. We are not landlords. We have small farms. We need some source of income too. That's why in India side of Kashmir, they are more with Israel because they both get along. They believe in the cow. These people believe in the cow. So Hindus, they believe in the cow. The cow is their god. But in Muslim, that's the difference, that we as a Muslim, we eat the beef. So that's why there's a clash that. Sorry, you are muted, sir.
Yeah, I have another question for you about Pakistan. We know
Yes,
that
sir.
Imran Khan is an incredibly popular leader, but he right now is imprisoned because of trumped up charges. The West created a vote of no confidence. Now they have corrupt leadership. What are your thoughts on whether he'll be freed, and will there be a change in the government in Pakistan?
No, sir. He's not going to be freed because it's purposely they put him inside. That man is an Oxford graduate. He has more education than any other person. He is the cricket captain who bring the World Cup in 1992 Pakistan, and then when his mother died, he is the person who built 3 cancer hospitals in the country. That
Wow.
person is now 70% popular. Through his election, he won 180 seats. But because of the army, they do not like him, they do not want him. Because of that, this person is inside with 200 cases on him for no reason. So they're holding him up for no reason, by purpose, because the system how it's run is that all the Muslim countries managed by Zios. So Zios do not want a popular person, because when
Right.
The Afghan eviction happened for the U.S. forces, he was the person to say that hey, there's no way out. You need to get out of Afghanistan. There's no way out. That was the man who led America to get out of Afghanistan. And after then, there was an interview that told him that, hey, we're going to put a base in Pakistan. He said, absolutely no. The day when he said
Right.
absolutely no, that was the day that given he was given some there was kind of system that they had to vote against him, and then those senators got money. Of course, everybody knows where the money came from, and then those
Yeah.
when they voted him, he was sacked out of prime ministership. And then like you can see that there was case made here in US, and then recently the person who told them that the prime minister needs to go out, so he was brought here, and then you know the news what's going on.
Well, I don't know if you want to share the latest. I just know that he's imprisoned and that there's a corrupt number in the legislature who gave him a vote of no confidence based on the U.S. sort of, underwriting the whole thing.
Yeah, Mr. Liu is the person who told Pakistan ambassador, and then he got a cipher. So Imran Khan took the cipher to the public and said, "Hey, I got sacked because of the cipher that it came from US." And then that person was put in jail on biased cases, has nothing to do with that. In 1500 years in a Muslim country, nobody has got this kind of case that Imran Khan is told that he had to wait to get married to his wife after she got divorced, and then they got married so quick they made case on him. This is a history that in 1500 years in a Muslim nation nobody got this kind of case. So he's the only person on a biased fake cases, and then he showed that there was a cipher, and then even the
What is?
the
Can you
government.
tell me what is a cipher? How do you spell it, and what is it?
A cipher is an English word, sir. Cipher means that when some country wants to bring or topple down someone, and it's a secret language which it goes from the embassy to another country. So when the secret language passes to the country which came to Pakistan, of course it was from the ambassador here in US, and then the cipher came to them, and it's a script that which they translated it. It's a coded word. So that cipher came
Right.
against Imran Khan. It was mentioned that if government of Pakistan allows or gets out or gets rid of Imran Khan, and then the way for Pakistan will be all just fine. So today you can see that when the election happened, he's still in jail, and then when the election happened, he was the person who won with the majority, but the person
Right.
who won in 18 seats, they are now in the government. The person who is with 180 seats, he's not in the government.
Wow, what a bad deal for Imran Khan. He seems like a really good man. I remember before he was put in jail, he had some like rallies like Donald Trump does, similar, but he had so many people, like maybe 600,000 people. It was amazing.
Yeah, he's the Trump of Pakistan, sir.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really unfair. This is yet another example of U.S. meddling in foreign countries for its interest, knowing that a leader who would vie for his own people is not welcome there because they want to have both military and economic control over foreign nations as much as possible. So they get their dirty hands in there wherever they can. Now, this is the thing about America that most people don't know is that we just subvert and
Yeah,
overthrow as many governments. And it has nothing to do with democracy. It's all about control and people playing ball. Look at the other, quote, Arab nations and how they're sort of, not going with the will of the people. Most people in Egypt and in Jordan and in Syria and Lebanon want to see people take on Israel, but the leadership doesn't allow for it.
Imran Khan is a good man. He was the first person to bring two conference in 2 months and invited all the Islamic leaders into Islamabad, and they made a budget or finance. They made it a forum that they can help Afghanistan as soon as America gets out of Afghanistan, and that happened. That he was the one to bring all the leadership. But then the world is full of politics. This person, Imran Khan, traveled to Moscow, and he wanted to get reasonable price gasoline. He wanted to bring gas. He wanted to bring wheat because we are dependent for wheat from outside, and he wanted to bring gas. So when
Yeah.
he made a talks, and the second day the Ukraine war happened. When the Ukraine war happened, the moment he arrived in Pakistan, and then U.S. told all these countries that you guys have to put vote for Ukraine, and then I think Pakistan was like, no, we're not gonna do, and then that's when Imran Khan got sacked. So that
Wow.
person is a good asset to the country. He is for the people. But the ones who are running now are the crooks. They're the most dacoit. They've taken all the IMF loans to Dubai and they've invested in Britain. And these are the
Yeah.
people that they enjoy the luxury lifestyle. Their birthday, their hospital, their Eid celebration, everything is in London and Dubai. But they only come to rule the country. Today, we have the same people coming back once more, like the third time they came. So we want Imran Khan back. We want, all these countries handle their own government. Leave the people alone. We need to leave
Yeah.
Palestinians alone. We need to leave the other countries alone. Let them handle their situation. It's not fair to mingle in people's affairs. So leave the people alone.
I agree. All right, let's listen to this. Let's leave that comment. Thank you for being here for that interesting conversation on that. If you remember, the U.S. has meddled. If you can look this up. The guys like Michael Parenti have written about it. People like Max Blumenthal have studied this. The U.S. has intervened just since World War II so many times in foreign countries. Go back past that, you think, oh, it's all in the modern era. No, it's not. The United States stole Hawaii. The United States stole part of Mexico. The United States eliminated the entire indigenous population. The United States had long-standing slavery of African slaves. All the stuff the U.S. has ever done. I mean, you want to think of ourselves as a good nation, but just like we talk about Israel, we're not critical of the people because most people just want to live their lives. But the government and the military and the control structures have done awful things to a lot of people to their detriment for the benefit of our empire. And it's just kind of disgusting. That's the word I like to use. It's disgusting. I want to wave the pom poms. I want to be a go America person, but it's hard in the face of that behavior to say, and you can really, it's hard to acknowledge that and be like in favor of it if you have a decent heart and a moral compass in terms of those issues. So I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't think it can be stopped easily. Um, I don't have all the answers, but I think a lot of people are feeling that now. They're like kind of woken up and like, damn, this is messed up. Thank you so much for being here. What I'm going to do right now is just let everybody know. I'm going to stop the live now, but what I'm going to do is restart it around 8:15 or 8:30 p.m. once I get home and get most of that stuff done. So thank you for being here. Thanks, Courtside. That was really interesting, by the way. You really, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, probably learned a lot from that. So Kashmir, I want to learn more about it later, but for now, that was a fantastic primer. This is being recorded and will be uploaded later if you want to come back and review if you came in late. So my link in my bio shows my YouTube and my Rumble channel, so you can easily check it out. So for right now, thanks for being here, everybody. I'll see you in about an hour and a half. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.